Now, oh no, there's a crosswind going on. Quite a lot of it, as you can see by this windsock, which could not be more erect and not more crossing the runway indeed. Yes, wind's coming off the side. The question is, how much crosswind is too much crosswind? How much crosswind extends the limits of an airplane and leads to things like this? Well, it turns out this value is dependent on the very airplane you're flying. And most of the time, you'll find that limit of your airplane in its handbook, in the literature. This, for example, is the pilot operating handbook for the Cirrus SR-20. And in some of the millions of pages, we'll find something saying about the crosswind landing max component. Though on a small plane like this, it's quite open here. The maximum allowable crosswind velocity is dependent upon pilot capability, as well as aircraft limitation. Thanks, that's very useful information. Operation in direct crosswinds of 20 knots has been demonstrated. Yes, so 20 knots is kind of a benchmark limitation of the Cirrus. And every airplane has that, of course. But it's interesting to study which airplanes have interestingly low and high amounts of crosswind limits, because it very much varies, even in airliners. I mean, right now, we have literally 20 knots of direct crosswind of this SR-22 Cirrus, which means that landing this airplane in this kind of wind is very much the limit of what this airplane can do. But when we talk about airliners, it gets very interesting. Here we have a crosswind limit list of several airplanes whose limitations range from 25 knots all the way to 40 knots down here. Today, let's go ahead and have our own little limit test. And of course, the number one weakest airplanes in terms of crosswind tolerance, a small turboprop airliner. This, for example, is the Q400, and it has a crosswind limit, just like the ATR-72, of up to 30 knots. Now, that really depends though on the airline and what they are saying the limit is, but the absolute max is 30 knots, which is the very wind component we have going on right now, and you can clearly see that in the airplane. Why is the limit of this plane so small compared to other airliners? Obviously, it's the high wing configuration mixed with the fuselage being relatively long, whereas the rudder surface in itself is not really that big after all. Yes, the dominance of the rudder is a very, very important component to figuring out how much crosswind an airliner can take. This plane cannot take a lot. Also, it's quite small, and we're really struggling here with 30 knots of crosswind indeed. Oh my god, I'm really struggling. All right, let's try to crab this landing here. So I'm putting the rudder to the left. Okay, that was really the limits. This was very uncomfortable of a landing. Luckily though, crosswind that high mostly don't happen unless you're in Madeira or something. And there we go though, we have had the absolute ability to land relatively safely, although things can go wrong very quickly in the Q400. Even Google says a Dash 8 Q400 can struggle to land in strong crosswind. I mean, look at this landing here of a Q400. It is clearly struggling, the nose landing gear touching down first. It's able to do it, but sometimes things don't go super well. I don't even know what this landing is. Is this a crash? Oh, okay. But yes, the airliner number 3 of the worst performing crosswind landers is interesting because it is the Boeing 787-10. It is the worst performing 787 out of the 787 family, whereas the 8 and the 9 can land up at crosswinds quite high, 35 knots on the 9. The Dash 10 can only land at 26 knots, which is remarkably low, especially for an airliner of this size. And this is the very airplane, the 787-10, a plane that we wouldn't be able to fly here. Right now, we have 30 knots of crosswind, something that can happen in a storm. And the crew of a 787-10 would say, well, we wouldn't be able to fly, whereas the crew of a 787-8 would say we would fly. Now, why does the 787-10 struggle so much in comparison to its little brother? Well, it is all about how dominant the rudder is. I mean, just look at the 787 family characteristics. Whereas the 787-10 is so much longer, in fact 12 meters than the 8, it is barely any higher. The rudder size barely grows as the length grows, and this is why the 787 might have a rudder that's a little bit too small. And this is why the plane is so bad on a list. Now, granted, a crosswind component this high is very rare anyway. It's not really affecting airliners in everyday flying, but still, let's go ahead and pull off some tests. See, we're now flying this long boy right here, very long boy, with a 43 knots crosswind component. Very much beyond the limits. Let's see if we're able to make it. All right, nothing to worry about. Put the flaps out. Now, an airliner like this, to be so far offset off the runway, I mean, look at it. That's kind of scary. Okay, now we're gonna have to do some crabbing. Oh!
30, 20.
Oh my God. Oh, I'm struggling. I'm struggling a lot. Holy moly, I'm struggling. I really did try my best. And we're now in the grass. That has genuinely not worked the way I wanted it to. That was a proper crash. Oh my God. That was a proper, we weren't able to pull it off. I was not able to pull it off. Lots of engine scrapage there, and we've crashed. I didn't expect that. Now, granted, with this amount of wind component, 35 knots, no airport would actually stay open. This would have been a definite go-around. But man, I struggled so hard. I really tried there, helping out with the rudder here, steering to the, but it didn't work. Look, that was the engine scrapage right there, and we ran off the runway. Oh my goodness. I mean, just have a side-by-side comparison now to the much more capable, apparently, 7878. Much smaller, but the rudder being relatively the same size does seem to help us out a little bit. All right, let's grab it.
40.
Uh-oh.
30.
Even this plane is kind of struggling. Oh my God, that was not good at all. But we're able to stay on the runway. Come on, rudder, give me a full author. Oh, that is... Holy moly! Oh, we've done a lot of damage. But we're able to somehow steer against it a little better. Yeah, you know, well, we could see the 787-8 does have a little bit of better maneuverability in crosswind conditions due to the rudder. This is a relatively irrelevant test. At this kind of wind speed, no airliner would land. That would have been a definite go-around. But still, according to the numbers, this plane performs just as bad as the CRJ-200 does. And we know about the CRJ series. A relatively small airliner with wings that are very low to the ground, making wing strikes very possible, but also a plane that has a relatively small rudder surface as well. Also, just look how close the landing gear is to each other. This plane is so known for being able to tip over quite quickly. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Don't fall off the runway. We have to steer against it, which is not easy. We don't have a lot of rudder authority. Let's go. And our landing gear is partly on fire already. And we are actually overrunning because we, and that's not okay. Now, of course, the bigger the airliner, typically the more limits it can do. The A320 family, 33 knots. That's good. 737 family is quite hard here. The new ones are very stable in crosswind. See, very, very big rudder design. This plane feels good to fly in these winds for a change. All right, looking good. Oh, this feels good. This feels great. Let's just quickly steer against the wind.
10.
Now, granted, a very hard landing, but we're able to actually safely land. That was the best landing of the day. The very potent 737 with its good rudder design, no trouble. But the kings and the number ones are airliners like the A330, the 777, the Airbus A380, and the 747. They can do 40 knots of crosswind easily because they're big and strong. Come on, butter machine. Let's try 40 knots. Indeed. After all, you're the butter machine. You can do high gusting winds, no trouble at all. Probably also because your total landing gear is quite strong. It can pull off some hard landings, no trouble. Oh yeah, this fly-by-wire feels nice, even with 40 knots of straight crosswinds. So much better than the 787. There we go. We're a little fast. No trouble though. We can now crab.
Runway 2. 20. 10.
That was a hard landing. No trouble. Let's go ahead and just touch down again. That was actually pretty good. That was well done. So let's go ahead and stop the plane now. Okay, even in this, we're kind of struggling a little bit. But still, this was the most amount of wind we tested today with the best landing, actually. So not bad at all. So, buddy, a comparison between the crosswind limits of airliners. Very interesting, but I'm not really saying that this is any relevant data, really. If your plane can do it, just go around, especially in a 787. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. As always, good night. And a special thanks goes out to my members, my supporters: Guns Killer, R27, James Duram, That Dude, Anime Gods of Gaming, Derek, Insider Plane, Nishijitsu Fanner, Professional Jamal, Ryland Williams, and New the York. You've got beautiful names.